So this is our steering wheel table, and it's something that I actually built myself out of materials for less than about $40. Believe it or not, this is plywood that has been stained to match the cherry cabinets in our RV. So today I'm going to show you how to build one. To keep the video moving along, we're not going to list out all of the tools and materials, but there is a link in the video to our full write-up where we've listed everything you'll need and links of where you can get them. Okay, so we're obviously making a round table and we've got a square piece of wood. There's a lot of ways that you can cut a circle, but for this video, we're drilling a small set screw into the middle of our table. We're attaching a piece of string to it, and we're using our pencil to actually act as a protractor, creating a pretty perfect circle for us. I was actually sort of surprised how well this worked. Now it's time to use that outline to cut your circle. Make sure you have a fresh, sharp blade and take your time. All right, sorry about the wind here, guys. It's just after a storm, so it's a little windy. So now that we've got the table cut, the next step is to sand it. Make sure the edges are really nice and smooth so that we can put on our edging. Now that we're all sanded, Kayla's over here getting us plugged in with our household iron. So now we're going to apply the edging to the table, which is a birch edging you can buy at Home Depot. I think it's 3/4 inch. Here it is, called veneer edging. And we'll probably find it on Amazon too, so we'll see if we can put a link up. So let's put the edging on. Okay, so now that we've gotten our edging all the way around, we need to cut it. So we're going to use a nice sharp razor blade, and we've got our beginning and our end seams overlapping. And you can probably not see this with the camera, but we're just making a perfect cut right where they overlap. This stuff's pretty malleable, so you can get through it pretty easily. Close to a decent seam here, which we can fill with a little wood filler. Finish up our seam. Alright, so once you're this far and you've got your sanding done, and you feel like you've got a pretty good primed, or not primed, but sort of initial base product with a nice edge on it, we're ready for stain. Before you stain, make sure you get all the sawdust off of it. I usually use like a damp cloth. So I'm going to do that now, and then we're going to start staining. For our stain, we're using the Minwax Wood Finish Penetrating Stain Cherry, which matches our RV pretty well. It's number 235, again, Home Depot, or we'll throw up an Amazon link. You're going to need a rag, a dark rag. It's going to get probably thrown away, so that's how you're going to wipe off the excess stain. And then we have a foam staining brush as well. So let's get to staining. Before I get started, one last thing. I'm using little disposable bottle caps from plastic water bottles to hold the table up and off of my work area. I'm actually going to stain the bottom of this table first, even though you're never going to see that area, just so that when it's being transported it looks nicer. So I recommend you start with that, let it dry, and then you can flip it over and spend much more time on your finished product. Alright, so we're on to our top, and we got a fresh coat on there, still wet. Haven't taken off the excess yet, but if you look here, the edges are a little tough. They do take a little bit more time to absorb, probably because there's not a lot of wood there. But we have found that even though it looks like it's not absorbing, once you wipe off the excess and you urethane it, it actually does create a pretty even finish. But make sure you pay special attention to that edge, because when you're sitting on your couch in your RV, you're going to look at that edge a lot. So it is important. And I'm doing kind of a no-no in the woodworking world, which is I'm applying stain in direct sunlight. You really want to try to find a shady area, and you also don't really want to do this when it's just rained, because the humidity in the air will make the stain take a lot longer to really get into the wood and look nice. So a kind of warm, dry day in the shade is perfect, but we don't really have that luxury or anywhere to go right now, so we're just going to keep an eye on it. The key is make sure the stain doesn't dry on the table. Alright, so now we're done with our second and third coat of our stain. Table's behind us drying. This is the step you really can't skip for timing. So we gotta wait for it to dry. It should be a couple hours. Then we're heading over to a friend's house who actually has a garage, and we're gonna use that to do the urethane. It's gonna be a little hard to urethane outdoors because urethane's very sticky, and dust and tree particles and stuff will stick in the urethane, and that'll be in your table. So we want to get into a garage to do that. One thing I was thinking about that would probably work is you could probably use your bay door or your bays to let your table dry when you urethane it. But we didn't want to get any of the fumes in the coach, so I don't think that would really be a problem, but that is an option. And some campgrounds may have like a screened-in area or something that you could use to do a little brief urethane job. But we got a garage, so we're going to take advantage of it. So let's head over there now. All right, so we're in our garage here, and we've got our table with some cardboard to protect the, actually using a wet dry vac as a table. And underneath there, we've got a little flower pot that's holding us up off the ground. So before we do any, so this is dried. We gave it a couple hours. Before we do any urethaning, we're going to want to do a light sand with a fine sandpaper. Not exactly, I don't have the finest sandpaper, but I don't need to be that perfect. That'll just get rid of any imperfections from the stain and kind of get it ready for some urethane. So we're going to do that now. Sand it down, and we're going to now just wipe it down with a cloth, and we're going to start to spray it with a couple coats of urethane. So the urethane we're using is rv'ing polyurethane. This is a satin interior finish. You can use a brush on. No real reason to use a spray can. I just think it's easier. So we're going to do 3 coats of this, and then at the end I'm going to show you a pretty unique way to polish it so that you have a really nice finish. Alright, so now that we've let our table dry, and that's our third coat of urethane, we're pretty much done. The last step is totally optional, but I like to do it, and it's a little unorthodox. So I'm going to start with some polish for an automobile, which is designed to basically get rid of all the contaminants and the rough spots and the high spots in paint, but it's also not as strong as like a compound, which is much more abrasive. So I like to use a polish for a car, because I have it for our RV, and I use it to make the table kind of a mirror shine. So we're going to use that combined with our orbital applicator to get this thing nice and shiny.
All right, so we've got the polish done. We're just going to wipe off that excess polish. And that got rid of all of the high spots from our spray-on lacquer, or urethane. Let's get the edging. You're looking at the back side right now, at the bottom, which we're not going to see. We only really stain that so it'll look a little bit nicer. Let's show you finished product. Look at that. That's one nice looking piece of plywood, huh?
Welcome back to the RV. We've got our table in position on our steering wheel, as I'll show you right now. There it is. Now, we're not quite finished yet. The table itself is finished and it's been waxed and looks pretty good. But if you look from this side, you can tell that it's not quite level. And that's because when most diesel pushes or steering wheel columns are in the upright position, they're not going to be completely flat. Every RV is different, but we're going to address that right now. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see. It's obviously a little bit tight here, so sorry about the camera angle. The first thing we want to do is make sure that the table is completely centered on the wheel. Or exactly where you want it to be on the wheel. Because if you don't want it off center, you want it a little bit forward, that's fine. For the next step, we're going to add some spacers here to make the table level. So here are some spacers that we found on Amazon. They're just 1.5 inch rubber spacers, and these will work out great. I've got my pencil here, mechanical pencil that I'm going to need as well. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to mark where we're going to install these spacers on the table so that it sits level. Okay, so it's a little hard to tell because this chair's in the way, but you want to make sure that your rubber stoppers are evenly spaced from the left to the right to your steering column. That's going to make sure that not only is your table level from this side over here, but it's also going to be level from this side over here. So make sure that those are straight. Now we're going to circle where those are on the wood so that we can screw them in permanently. So we've marked our first two, which are marked, but we're gonna actually add a third one to the back. Now this third one is not actually going to sit on the steering wheel, it's gonna sit on the inside of the steering wheel. And it's gonna be really hard for me to explain it, but essentially, if you look here, see if I can give you a good angle. If you look right there, I'm putting the spacer on the inside of the wheel, right in the center of the wheel. Right there. So it's the inside of the wheel, right in the center, facing the windshield. We've removed our table. This is actually the bottom side. It's going to be pretty hard to tell, but our pencil marks are easy to see in this, which is probably not on camera. So we're going to place those on our pencil marks. Now, these rubber stoppers or rubber feet don't come with screws. So you want to get yourself some screws. This is a 1-inch screw, which is what we're going to be using. Now, when you buy screws, make sure you test that depth. So if you can see here, that's the depth of how far our screw is going to pop through, and that's not going to go through the table completely, which is what we're looking for. Alright, so we're in a pretty good spot. We've got our finished product here, which is ready to go. You might have wondered why we did 3 feet like this. And there's 2 reasons for it. One is it makes the table really easy to put onto the steering wheel by, and we'll show you that in a second. But 2, it also allows the table to double as a table for serving, possibly for food, or you could use this outside on your picnic table. Okay, so let's install the table. We take our front single foot, we put that straight in the center, and we line it up. Make sure these are centered. And there's our steering column RV table. Thanks for watching, guys.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You can also subscribe to the blog directly on LivinLite.net, and you'll receive email updates of all of our posts.